There lived a queen called Sarah, who was in a loveless marriage with King James. The only reason they got married was to strengthen the friendly ties between their two kingdoms. Queen had struggled to make her husband, the king, fall in love with her, but nothing worked. To make the matter worse, King James married 10 more wives after her, and all hopes of having his attention faded away. The only source of joy that kept Queen Sarah going was her son, John, so she decided to pour all her love and affection into her son. After all, she couldn't compete with her husband's 10 wives. She loved her son so much and got unhealthily attached to him. She dictated everything in his life even after he was no longer a child. After his son, John, clogged 22 years and started bringing home maidens he wanted to marry, Queen Sarah will always have something bad to say about all of them, no matter how good the maidens were. She looks like she can't cook. I heard she has slept with almost everyone in the village. This one is possessed. All they do in their family is still this, and more horrible words came out of Queen Sarah's mouth about every single meeting her son shows interest in. She would always end a disapproval conversation with, "Trust me, son, I am your mother, and I know what is best for you." John also complies with his mother's decisions every single time. All she had to say was, "Not this one, son, trust me, I know what is best for you," and it will immediately end the relationship with the maiden. She wanted her son all to herself and did everything in her power to keep him tied to her apron strings. She believed that once her son gets married, his wife will take her place, and all the attention she gets from her son. There came a time, John started a love relationship with a lady called Ark. Before choosing this time around, he made sure to pick someone who he felt ticked all his mother's boxes and standard. Nora was a famous food seller in the village, known and praised by all for her decency and great cooking skills. She was also very beautiful and respectful. After 3 months of their relationship, John finally took Nora to the palace to meet his mother. As soon as she saw Queen had come in, Nora went on her knees. "Good afternoon, my queen," Nora said politely. Queen mumbled something that sounded like, "Good afternoon," incoherently. She had a big frown on her face. She was sure her son had brought another girl he would like to marry. "Mother, this is AR. She is that famous cook Chief talked about. I would be beyond lucky to have her as my bride. Don't you agree, mother?" John joyfully asked his mother, who looked lost in thoughts of how she could get her son to end this relationship with her mother. John called out to Queen Sarah, who instantly pretended she had a headache. "I have a serious headache. I think I might be coming down with a fever," she added. "May the god forbid, mother." "Let me quickly get the palace physician," John said, while rushing out. Nora quickly moved a wooden stool closer to Queen Sarah and placed Alex on it. She asked the palace maids for where to get drinkable water and brought a cup to the queen. In Nora's little way, she did everything she could to make Queen Ad feel better, but throughout this event, all Queen could think of was how to destroy AR and get her off her beloved son. The following day, John went to check on his mother. "How are you feeling today, mother?" John asked. "I am much better, my son," she replied. "I brought you some fruit juice. I made sure to juice them all by myself," I told his mother. Queen take him, and as he was about to leave her chambers, she stopped him. "My son, I would like to discuss something with you." "What is it, mother?" John asked. "It is about the maiden you brought yesterday." "John, you can't marry her." "But why? Why can't I marry Nora?" John said to his mother, looking so confused. "I can confidently say Nora is the best ma currently in this kingdom. She is beautiful, respectful, decent, and a very good cook, mother. What more could you seek for in a daughter-in-law?" John added. "I am your mother. I know what is best for you. Can I deceive my own son whom I breastfed for years?" Queen Ad fired back while beating her chest. Ad felt weak in his knees after his mother made the last statement and apologized for arguing with her. After apologizing, he asked his mother a question. "I trust your judgment, mother, but can you please give me just one reason why Nora isn't good for me?" Ad looked at him and sighed. "Because she is Anan." Sarah couldn't believe his ears. He wondered how being an Iran makes one unsuitable for marriage. He tried to make his mother change her mind, but she got angry instead. "You are a prince. You can't just take any bride without proper investigation into our lineage, what they do, their way of life, and everything. We can't trace Nora's family. She might be a marine spirit. What if there is a disease plaguing our lineage? Queen Ad screamed every flimsy excuse she could get from her head at her son concerning Nora, but deep down, she just wanted to keep the hold she had on her son. I understand you, Mother, and I know you are just looking out for me, but there is a solution to all you have stated, John said calmly. I will bring Nora back to see you, and you are free to ask her any questions you might have. We can even do a thorough investigation of our extended family if you want, but please give her a chance, and if you are not satisfied after this visit, I will do as you have said. Aidan was not pleased but couldn't press further at that moment. She agreed to give Nora a chance. 2 days later, John took Nora to his mother's quarters, and the drilling began. Nora, people who know me will tell you I don't sugarcoat, so let me go straight to the point. I don't think you are good enough for my son, Queen Ad said firmly. How so, my queen? Nora asked, looking lost. You are an orphan, your lineage is not traceable, my son can't marry someone like you. Nora burst into tears. Immediately, John only tried to pacify her. He was too scared to caution his mother. How mean can you be to comfortably utter such words before me? Nora said in tears. I can't believe you are weaponizing the death of my parents, bringing back the memory of old wounds, just because you don't want me for your son, Nora added. John sat there confused on how to approach the situation. Young lady, my son is a prince, a prince. There is no way I would allow him marry a straight cat, Queen Sarah. Nora got so angry, she stood up, wiped her tears, and as she was about to leave, she faced Queen suddenly and she said, I should give you a piece of my mind before leaving. My name is Princess Nora, daughter of King Dada Ad, the great king of Og Kingdom. If not for the war that wiped out my village and took the lives of my dear parents, people like you will not have the joy of tearing me apart with words, Nora revealed as she struggled to stop the tears dropping from her eyes. Queen Sarah and John were surprised to hear this revelation. I have heard so much about you, and would advise you to marry your son and stop hiding under the guise of finding him a perfect girl, Nora thundered before storming out of the palace. And what if she's a princess? Should I make her this rude? This is exactly why I said you can't marry her, she has a temper, Ad bitterly said. Mother, I think you were a bit ash. I have to go after her, John said while rushing out. He ignored his mother who kept calling his name to stop him from leaving. John couldn't catch up with R, so he decided to go to RH, but she wasn't there. He waited from that afternoon till night time. After 7 hours of waiting, Nora finally came home. She was surprised to see the prince. What are you doing here? She asked firmly. Is it a crime that I have come to see you? John replied. Your mother made it clear in your presence that I am not suitable for you, and all you did was watch, Nora fired back. I am sorry about how my mother treated you. Let's go in and sort this out, please, John pleaded. You are no longer. Nora couldn't finish her statement as she rushed to a side and vomited heavily. John rushed to help her, but she instantly rejected his help as she pushed him again. She got the urge to vomit again and felt so weak and light. John had to help her inside. He got her water, changed her clothes, and took care of her that night. The following morning, John summoned the palace physician, and it was confirmed that AR was pregnant, carrying John's child. She was so sad about this news because she had no intention of getting married to the father. John, on the other hand, was overjoyed. He got so excited and gave Nora a kiss. Why are you this excited? Your mother doesn't want to together, remember? Nora. This is good news, of course, I can't contain my joy. Please don't worry about my mother, she knows a royal baby belongs with royalty, John said joyfully. All true, Nora looked displeased every minute. She wondered if she should just run away with her unborn child. Her mother's words kept ringing in her head. When Nora's mother was alive, she always told every maiden that had years that it is dangerous to have an in-law that hated them. Nora was confused because it is quite clear her future mother-in-law hates her, but she is pregnant for John. It was a dilemma she struggled with for days. I don't want my child to be fatherless, she cried, but am I ready to face this incoming hell of the life? Nora asked herself every single day. John, on the other hand, went over to his mother's chambers and shared the good news. Queen had almost fainted on hearing the news. Our world came crashing down. How did you let this happen? She yelled at her son. He tried to pacify her, but she pushed him away. You are a disappointment, Q kept repeating. She sent him out of our chambers and told the Gats not to allow him in. John pleaded with his mother for weeks, trying to make her understand that he loved AR and wanted to do right by her and their unborn child, but the Queen remained steadfast in our opposition, convinced that AR was trying to trap her son and take him away from her. Realizing that his mother would not change her mind, John decided to seek the help of his father, the king. He knew that his father would be able to reason with his mother and convince her to accept their union, so he went to the palace and poured out his heart to his father, telling him of his love for Nora and the difficult situation they found themselves in. The king listened to his son's words with a heavy heart. He knew that his wife, Queen Sarah, had a stubborn streak and was not easily swayed once she had made up her mind, but he also knew that he had to do everything in his power to support his son and help him in this difficult time. The king called together the village chiefs and summoned the queen to a meeting in the great H of the palace. When Queen Sarah arrived, she was greeted by a solemn gathering of the most respected members of the village. The king spoke first, telling his wife of his son's love for Nora and his desire to marry her. He pleaded with the queen to reconsider our stands and to give a blessing to the marriage because it was important for her to do right by Nora and their child. At first, Queen Sarah refused to listen, her heart adding against the pleas of our husband and the village chiefs, but after seeing that our objections were falling on deaf ears, Queen Sarah pretended she was ready to give her blessings to Ad and Nora's union, but in her heart, she swore to make Nora's life a living. And so, the preparation for the royal grand wedding began. Queen Sarah arched a devious plan to sabotage the wedding, but first, she knew she had to gain Nora's trust and make her believe that she had accepted their relationship. One afternoon, to our weakest surprise, Queen Sarah visited her H with tears in her eyes and apologized for all the mean things she had said to Nora. She claimed to have had a change of heart and wanted to make amends before the wedding. Deep down, Nora wasn't convinced by this sudden move by Queen Sarah, but she believed that everyone deserved a second chance, especially someone who was going to be a mother-in-law, so she forgave her for all the artful words, and they hugged each other. A week to the wedding, Queen offered Nora a big part of our quarters in the palace for Nora to move into for smooth and easy preparation for the wedding. Nora was hesitant at first to accept this offer, but John told her it would look like she was still angry at his mother, so 2 days to the wedding, Nora moved into the chambers the Queen had offered her. Queen Sarah welcomed her, and as a gesture of goodwill, AR decided to show her how beautiful her wedding dress looked. She had spent weeks searching for the perfect wedding dress and finally found one that made her feel like a princess. Nora carefully pulled out the dress from its protective cover and held it up for a mother-in-law to see. It was a stunning white gown with intricate lace detailing and beads. Queen gasped in awe at the sight of the exquisite dress and shed Nora with compliments. Nora beamed with pride, grateful that her mother-in-law was finally starting to come around and accept her. She carefully returned the dress to the closet in one of the rooms. Queen Sarah grinned wickedly. A devious plan was starting to come together. At dawn of the wedding day, she snuck into the chambers she gave Nora under the cover of darkness, making her way to the bedroom where the wedding dress was kept, and with a malicious glint in her eye, she opened a big of red oil that she had brought with her and began to pour it onto the delicate fabric of the dress. As the red oil sipped into the lace and silk of the gown, staining it irreparably, Queen Sarah felt a rush of satisfaction. She was convinced that by ruining the dress, she could put an end to the wedding, at least for some time before coming up with a more fatal and permanent plan. In the morning, as Nora stepped into our bedroom to get ready for the most important day of her life, her heart sank at the sight of our ruined wedding dress. "I am in trouble, this is trouble," she screamed. Tears welled up in her eyes as she realized that her dreams of a perfect wedding had been shattered in an instant. Nora's friends rushed in as soon as they had ice cream. They were all shocked to see the beautiful wedding dress in such states. They tried to pacify their friend, who couldn't stop crying. John was informed by one of the friends, and as he stood over to the scene, his mother followed him. Queen asked what the problem was, and her son briefed her. She screamed as if she wasn't aware, or in fact, the perpetrator of the act. They got to the scene, and John tried his best to console and call Nora Today is our wedding day, my beautiful dress is rude. Who could have done such a thing? Nora added, and as she looked at the room entrance, she saw her mother-in-law sticking out her tongue at her and wearing a mocking smile, and it clicked in Nora's head that her mother-in-law destroyed her wedding dress. Before words could come out of Nora's mouth, Queen rushed towards her. I am so sorry about this. Only a monstrous human is capable of such evil, Queen added in pretense. Nora pushed her mother-in-law with so much force, and Queenad fell on the floor. Everyone was shocked to see this. You are evil, you did this to me, Nora screamed. Nora, what has gotten into you? John yelled while trying to help his mother up. Your mother destroyed my wedding dress. What did I ever do to her? Nora added. I know what happened to your dresses, see, but you don't have to pin this on my mother, John thundered. Queen was leaping for joy inwardly. Her plan to cause confusion and problems between her son and Nora on their wedding day was yielding good fruits right before her eyes. Suddenly, she started to cry. Why would I do this to you, Nora? I accepted you, and I love you like my daughter. I don't even stay in this part of the palace, Queen said, building on a web of lies. No one believed Nora, not even her friends. They all felt she was just finding someone to blame. If I am getting this horrible treatment before marrying you, what will be my fee after the wedding? Nora cried. This sign is big enough for me to run. There will be no wedding, Nora added firmly. They all started begging her not to cancel the wedding. The king heard of what had happened and summoned Nora to the palace, hoping to get to the bottom of the situation. The king listened intently as Ar explained everything that had happened. She told him about the rude wedding dress and how no one believed her. She also shared her suspicions about Queen Sarah being the culprits. The king was shocked by the accusations against his wife, but he also couldn't ignore Nora's pain and disappointment. He promised her that he would get to the bottom of this and find out the truth. He also pleaded with her not to call off the wedding with his son. He assured her that he would make things right and ensure that she had the perfect wedding she had always dreamed of. Out of respect for her father-in-law, Nora agreed to continue the wedding, and immediately the king ordered the palace guards to fetch the best dressmaker in the land. John was waiting for Nora outside the king's court, and as soon as she stepped out, he apologized for making her angry and tried to convince her someone else's ruined a dress. In no time, a new wedding dress was made for Nora, and as the wedding guests started to arrive at the palace, Cuckoo, the only family Nora had left from her mother's side, also arrived. Nora was surprised. Cuckoo made it to her wedding. It's been 2 years since she saw her aunt, and it made her feel so emotional. With the help of our friends and the new wedding dress from the king, Nora was set to get married to John. On the surface, it was indeed a colorful wedding that left the entire village spellbound. The king also gave the new couple a beautiful mansion as a wedding gift. This made Nora so happy because the thought of living with her wicked mother-in-law sent shivers down her spine. 2 days after the wedding, John and Sarah moved into their beautiful home. Queen Sarah was very angry about her son being further away from her, but being a master manipulator, she used every trick in the book to ensure that her son remained completely devoted to her. She would pretend to be sick, asking that John come over to our house every day to take care of her, leaving poor Nora alone and helpless in their own home. Nora, being pregnant with their first child, found herself left alone to take care of herself and the pregnancy while her husband catered to his mother's every whim. One afternoon, Nora, now 6 months pregnant, was busy cooking when she heard a knock at the door. Her mother-in-law stood at the entrance with a sickly look on her face. Coming, mother, John said, concern evident in his voice. What is wrong? Are you feeling okay? Queen coughed dramatically and stumbled into the kitchen, clutching her hand to her chest. Nora couldn't help but roll her eyes at the theatrics. Nora knew it was all part of our twisted plot to keep her husband all to herself and away from her. I think I have a fever. Queen, I need you to take care of me. John immediately sprang into action, fawning over his mother and fetching her a glass of water. Nora bit her lip in frustration as she watched her husband dote on his mother while she struggled to stand on her own 2 feet. Queen shot Nora a smug grin, knowing full well the power she held over her son. For the next few days, Queen made herself at home in John and Nora's house. She refused to lift a finger to help around the house, claiming she was too weak to do anything. Instead, she demanded that John wait on her hand and foot, bringing her meals in bed and fluffing her pillows just so. AR tried to keep her patience, knowing that John felt obligated to care for his mother, but as the days turned into weeks, her mother-in-law's behavior became increasingly unbearable. She made snide comments about Nora's cooking, criticized the way she decorated the house, and even went so far as to rearrange the furniture in the living room to her liking. But the worst part of it all was how Queen Sarah monopolized her son's time and attention. Every spare moment he had, he spent with his mother, listening to her complaints and tending to her every need. Nora felt like a second-class citizen in her own home, pushed to the sidelines while her husband lavished his attention on his wicked mother. One day, Nora had finally had enough. She confronted John about his mother's behavior, pouring out her frustrations and imploring him to see how his mother was manipulating him. But John was blind to his mother's faults, choosing to believe her every word over Nora's protests. "I can't believe you are treating my mother this way," John said, glaring at Nora. "She's sick and needs my help, can't you see that?" With tears in her eyes, Nora stormed out of the room. The following day, Queen Sarah saw Nora eating and immediately she said, "No wonder you look so fat, it is because you eat too much." Nora felt triggered but tried so hard to keep her cool. She pondered day and night, thinking of the solution to the nightmare she found herself in. "Her mother-in-law is making my marriage a living hell," she complained. She talked about everything, called her a bad cook, dirty girl, fat pig, and every mean thing one could think of, but above all this, her husband didn't have time for her, despite being pregnant, solely because of his mother. 3 months after, Queen finally left her son's home. Nora was finally having a bit of fresh air and eagerly awaiting the birth of her child when her mother-in-law struck again. This time, Queen went to extreme lengths to ensure that John would never leave her side. She connived with the palace physician, claiming that she had a terminal illness and only had a few months left to live. John, devastated by the news, immediately rushed to his mother's side, leaving AR alone and scared in their home. That same night, Nora went into labor. She found herself faced with an impossible choice. She was unable to reach John, who was busy attending to his mother's supposed illness, but Nora was a strong and determined woman, and she knew that she had to fight for herself and her child. With the help of the 2 royal guards stationed at their house, Nora managed to make it to the midwife's H, where she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. And as she held her daughter for the first time, Nora felt a surge of strength and determination. There and then, she came up with a plan to solve her problems with her husband and mother-in-law. When John finally arrived at the midwife's H, he was greeted by a beautiful sight he had never expected: his wife, tired but triumphant, holding their newborn daughter in her arms, and standing beside him with a look of shock and dismay on her face was Queen Sarah. Nora looked at her mother-in-law with a steely gaze, her voice unwavering as she spoke. "Queen, I have tolerated your wickedness for far too long, but no more. I will not allow you to come between me and my peace of mind any longer. As you can see, I have a bundle of joy to take care of," Nora said, referring to her newborn child. "John, we are leaving this village and starting anew in a different place. You can choose to come with us, or you can choose to stay behind with your mother. The choice is yours," Nora added firmly. Torn between the 3 most important people in his life, John was confused, but the choices were clear: his mother, who was terminally ill according to the palace physician, or his wife and their newborn baby. What would you advise John to do? John faces a complex emotional and moral dilemma. Here are some considerations for his decision. Family loyalty versus new family. John has a duty to care for his mother, but his primary responsibility now extends to his wife and child. He should consider whether his mother's illness is genuinely terminal or if it's another manipulation by Queen Sarah. If there's doubt, he might seek a second medical opinion to clarify the situation. Long-term happiness. John should think about the long-term well-being of his new family. If Queen Ad continues to interfere, it could poison his relationship with Nora and harm their child's upbringing. Moving away might offer a fresh start and protect his new family from further harm. Communication and understanding. John needs to communicate openly with both Nora and his mother. He might try to negotiate a scenario where he can support his mother while establishing boundaries that protect his marriage and child. Self-reflection. John should reflect on his own feelings and what he truly wants for his future. Does he see his life with Nora in another place, free from manipulation, or does his duty to his mother override his personal happiness? Do you think Nora made the right decision? Nora's decision to set boundaries and prioritize her and her child's well-being is commendable. Here's why her actions might be justified. Self-preservation and protection. Nora's choice to move away is a form of self-preservation, protecting both herself and her daughter from a toxic environment. It's a courageous step towards ensuring a healthier life for her child. Setting boundaries. By confronting Queen Sarah and giving John an ultimatum, Nora is setting necessary boundaries that were previously absent. This can lead to healthier dynamics if John chooses to join them. Empowerment. Nora's decision underscores her empowerment and agency over her life and her new family's future, which is important for her mental and emotional health. However, the decision could also lead to family division. If John chooses his mother, it could permanently fracture family ties, which might have long-term repercussions for everyone involved. Support system. Moving away might mean losing the support from John's family and community, which could be challenging, especially with a newborn.